Hello, we begin this evening at 5 o'clock with a standoff in southeast Portland. After hours of negotiation, police now have the suspect in custody. Thank you for joining us. I'm Laurel Porter.
And I'm David Molko. That suspect is accused of menacing a city worker with a gun. Let's bring in Tim Gordon now near Lentz Park. So, Tim, what do we know about the suspect?
Well, David, we know that the suspect is a man who spent several hours in a tent as police tried to get him to surrender. Now, we also know that thankfully this ended peacefully. We're here at Southeast 92nd Herald. This is where police were diverting traffic for much of the day. You can see that it's reopened at this point. But just up a couple blocks is Lentz Park, just up on 92nd here. And it was at the corner of the park that a city worker said they were approached by a man who menaced or threatened them with a handgun. A 911 call got police rolling here just about 9:15 this morning. The first officers tried to get the suspect to surrender, but he did not, and he ended up just east of the park, hiding in that tent. The crisis negotiation team and the CERT, or Special Emergency Response Team, came out, and I'll tell you, that is a lot of people working to get the suspect to give himself up. Now, this was all happening near the I-205 bike and pedestrian path. There are a lot of tents up in that area. And in the 2 o'clock hour, the suspect, who was in one of them, was taken into custody.
I mean, this is a long process. And for us, it's worth the time to make sure that things end up safe for everybody involved.
Again, this was a big effort, and at one point, police flew their brand new drones overhead to get a better view of what they were dealing with. And as you just heard, it takes time, so Portland police thank neighbors for their patience. Now, we expect to learn more about the initial incident and what the suspect, now that he's been arrested, will be charged with. But the bottom line here and the good news is that nobody was hurt in this incident. Guys, back to you.
We're grateful it ended peacefully. Thank you, Tim. Firefighters had to rip down plywood to get inside a home that caught fire in northeast Portland. The fire started at about 7:30 this morning on Northeast 6th and Halsey. Firefighters have had issues with this home in the past. It's been abandoned for a while, but witnesses say they saw people running from the house shortly after this morning's fire started.
On the back side of the structure from where we are now, you can see 4 by 8 sheets of plywood that the crews have torn off to gain access. We have a lot of experience with this particular home. A report on the way here from one of the responding officers was there's heavy cluttered conditions, unsanitary trash and human waste throughout the entire structure.
Now that the fire is out, investigators are working to figure out how it started.
Well, it is the sound of spinouts that are dangerous and sometimes deadly. Illegal street races taking over the Rose City, a problem that tends to get worse as the weather gets warmer. Now, Oregon's governor is directing the state police to help local authorities crack down. Kylie Boshi is on it for us this evening. Kyle.
Yeah, both Governor Kotek and Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler confirmed the partnership today, although no specific details were provided. Illegal street racing has been an issue in the Portland area. Street racers close down traffic and take over streets. These planned events shared through social media often draw hundreds, sometimes thousands of people. Over the past few years, there have been several deaths associated with street racing incidents in Portland. In a statement, Mayor Wheeler said the partnership between OSP and Portland Police will, quote, save lives. The two agencies have joined forces previously. In 2021, OSP and Portland Police conducted an illegal street racing mission, resulting in citations and arrests. There's currently a bill moving through the Oregon legislature that would create tougher penalties for people convicted of illegal street racing. Additionally, the bill would allow police to seize their car. In addition to street racing, Governor Kotek also directed OSP to help Portland police crack down on drunk driving within the city and is asking the legislature for nearly $7 million to clear the police training backlog that slowed officers from filling positions in Portland and elsewhere around the state.
Thank you, Kyle. The mayor of a small Oregon town accused of shooting at a family in a road rage incident back in October appeared in court today in Hood River County. Dowan Jones is the mayor of Rufus in Sherman County. During his brief court appearance today, Jones did not enter a plea for the attempted murder charge he's facing. Instead, his lawyer asked for more time to prepare his case. The judge agreed and rescheduled Jones's arraignment for June 27th. Back on Halloween night, a family told police Mayor Jones was driving erratically before he abruptly pulled over, got out, and fired a gun at their car. No one was hurt, and deputies arrested Jones the next day. Security cameras were rolling when a defendant ran out of a Washington County courtroom earlier this week. It's important to note that the man was not in custody at the time. Let's bring in Mike Benner. Mike, this is a bit of deja vu because not all that long ago, another guy bolted out of the same courthouse.
Yeah, that's right, Laurel. The guy in the February incident was in custody, and the charges he was facing far more serious than the guy who made a run for it this week while out of custody. This afternoon, the Washington County Sheriff's Office gave us video of what happened Monday. You'll see a guy by the name of Jamie Regalado Pena race out of a Washington County courtroom during an out of custody hearing. Moments earlier, a judge determined that Regalado Pena was under the influence, a violation of his probation, so the judge remanded the 34-year-old into custody. But before a deputy got into the courtroom, Regalado Pena ran out of the courtroom and the courthouse. We're told Regalado Pena ran into a parked car, at which point a detective took him into custody.
This individual on Monday, he was not in our custody. He was on probation. He came to the court probation hearing on his own accord. He was in front of the judge, and when the judge remanded him, he made a decision to run.
And while troubling, it is a far cry from what happened in late February. Suspected murderer Eddie Villalobos bolted out of a Washington County courtroom at the start of his trial, right after deputies took off his restraints. While security cameras captured that, our cameras captured the hours-long manhunt that followed. Villalobos was eventually taken into custody. Again, that was in February. Both Villalobos' escape and Regalado Pena's run from justice are now under review by officials in Washington County. David?
Thank you, Mike. Well, the abortion drug mifepristone is back on the market nationwide for now, though with some new restrictions. You might remember a federal judge in Texas last week stripped the drug of its FDA approval and gave the government a week to appeal before that ruling would take effect. So last night, the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans temporarily halted the Texas judge's order, though the court also rolled back changes implemented over the years that made the drug easier to obtain. So the pill can no longer be delivered by mail, only prescribed up to 7 weeks into a pregnancy rather than 10. The Biden administration says it plans to seek, quote, emergency relief from the U.S. Supreme Court to restore full FDA approval. Now, keep in mind, another ruling last week by a federal judge in Washington state preserved full access to mifepristone in the District of Columbia, plus 17 states. Those include Oregon and Washington. According to Washington's AG, the new ruling does not impact those states. So in a statement, Congresswoman Andrea Salinas of Tigard called the appeals court ruling, quote, incredibly disappointing, and vowed to restore the right to choose in all 50 states.
Let's talk graduation now. The pandemic completely changed how schools celebrated their seniors. And thankfully, we're back to in-person graduations. But that's not without some parents upset about ticket limits for families to attend. A David Douglas mother reached out to KGW frustrated after hearing her senior would only be getting 4 tickets. She says she's not the only one upset. She tells us other mothers at different schools with smaller senior classes are getting a bigger venue with 12 to 15 tickets each.
And I'm thinking, we have David Douglas, one of the largest, I actually think the number 3 school in Oregon, largest school, high school in Oregon, and we are picking a smaller venue than schools that are having smaller graduation classes.
Graduation's at Child Center with a capacity of 4,800 people, but the 4-ticket limit has been this way for years. And here's why. The David Douglas principal says the school has a contract with the University of Portland, and UP puts limits on capacity for each ceremony, not the school.